Today we're going to talk about what to do with your 401k when you retire. We'll cover the options you have with your 401k, the rules around those options, and how to determine what strategy is best for your situation. Welcome to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Lauren Merkel and Clint Huntrods. They're both certified financial fiduciaries. Clint has a PhD and Lauren is also a certified financial planner. Lauren, the 401k, let's get to the basics first.
Yeah, let's start with the basics of the 401k account. It is a retirement account that can be offered to you by your employer. And there's so many benefits that come with the 401k account. One of the benefits is you can contribute to it. And it's one of the retirement accounts that you can contribute the most to, which is if you're age 50 and older in the year 2025, then you can contribute up to $31,000. And that contribution can go in pre-tax. Or a lot of employer 401k plans, now you can also contribute after tax, which means you're taxed on that contribution. It grows tax-free. You take it out later down the road and it comes out tax-free, as opposed to when it goes in pre-tax, you're not taxed on that money when it goes in. It grows tax deferred and then you pay taxes on it when you take it out. So not only is it beneficial to you because you can contribute a ton of money towards your retirement, also most employers will also make a contribution on your behalf. So that's free money to you underneath your retirement account that can grow and help you build your retirement nest egg.
Yeah, we know that fewer and fewer companies are offering pensions and more are offering 401ks or similar accounts. Some of the latest numbers from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics are that 66% of civilian workers have access to a 401k or equivalent defined contribution plan in 2024, Clint.
Yeah, and with that shift away from the pension, the onus falls more on those families that are saving into those 401ks to make a lot more decisions than they've ever had to before. You think about the different investment options. We regularly find that families are surprised how much risk is being taken in things like target date funds, where they say, hey, I want to retire this year. That's what the year is telling me on that target date fund. They're surprised how much risk they're actually taking within that portion. They don't always feel comfortable with that, but it's on them to kind of figure out what those investment decisions are and make the most of it. We recently worked with a family who had built quite a sizable 401k balance, and over time his investment strategy was, if this is losing money, I'm going to sell it and put more money into the ones that are making money. And what happened is, just through the nature of time, he started to move a lot more money to small caps, to where when we started to work with them, he had about 70% of his portfolio, or in his 401k, was all small caps. Now, over the last couple of years, where we had 20% S&P returns, he wasn't finding that his small cap portfolio was going to meet some of those standards that are out there and what the index funds are going to do, because he was focused more on small caps when large caps really carried the day in 2023 and 2024. And he was just blown away that he didn't know what was going wrong. And it was just kind of left to him to figure out, or eventually that's what led for him to come to us and say, hey, this isn't going right. I want to retire in about 5 years. I need to make sure all these decisions are working for me.
Yeah, when we're talking about investment risk, the 401k really has become an account of surprise for a lot of the reasons you just described, Clint, where it has evolved over. The 401k started in the mid-70s, and over this time frame, it's evolved to be a very hands-off type of investment with this auto enrollment and the auto invest and all these things. It's designed so you don't have to think too much about it. The money comes out of your paycheck automatically, goes into the 401k account, and then it just grows. That's the concept. But the risk can get skewed with decisions like that, or even if you do just set it and forget it, that risk can change as the markets swing back and forth, and then we go through a really bad time in the market and people are really surprised by the performance of their 401k plan. And that's why we say your retirement account, your 401k account, needs to be a part of your overall retirement plan. It's really important that your 401k plan is not your retirement plan. It's a retirement vessel that can help you retire, but it's one part of your overall retirement plan, and it cannot be ignored because for many people, it does represent the bulk of their retirement savings.
And some people might be wondering, Lauren, what is a retirement plan? We've got a great illustration of exactly what a retirement plan should include. This is our Retire Secure Roadmap, and it covers the 6 essential pillars of a retirement plan. You're seeing them on their screen. Starts with lifestyle. Where does it go from there, Clint?
Yeah, we're thinking about the income plan, and during during your working years, we know where that income plan is. It's coming from that paycheck, but we start to shift in retirement away from that traditional paycheck. We need to make sure that our investments are aligned to help position us to be able to deliver consistent income. Also, the Social Security decision that's out there. Investments is obviously a big part of your retirement plan. Tax planning, whether you're saving pre-tax or Roth, and then what do we look to do for proactive tax strategies in retirement. Healthcare becomes another big part of that retirement transition, where during our working years, we kind of know what that healthcare plan looks like through our employer. Now we start to shift to maybe gap healthcare or maybe Medicare. That needs to be a part of your plan. Also legacy. When we have our last day, how do we make sure that we have strategies in place to transfer our assets as smoothly as possible? And so you can quickly see that a retirement plan is not just your 401k, as some families think. I've saved here, this is what's going to help carry me through retirement. And then they start to get closer and closer, and they just realize there's many more moving parts than they probably ever realized.
A lot of the educational classes that we teach, many times they'll ask, what is a retirement plan? And the first response is going to be that 401k plan or that employer-sponsored plan, because it's so tempting to think that this is your money, this is going to enable you to live the lifestyle that you really want to in retirement. But then there are all of these other moving parts that come in to make up what a retirement plan is. And a lot of times people don't realize it until they get on the doorsteps of retirement and they start figuring out all of these decisions that they have to make they've never had to make before.
And one of those decisions is what to do with your 401k when you retire. So let's talk about one of the options you have. And one of the options, guys, is to leave the money in your 401k. So here's what happens. The money will stay invested as it is. A lot of times, at 59 and a half, you can start taking distributions. What else happens when you leave the money with your employer?
Yeah, one of the risks is you can't continue to make contributions towards that, and you might have a limited scope of really that larger investment plan, and just how the portions of your overall retirement plan need to be interrelated. And so you often don't have that more comprehensive plan guiding some of those decisions. 401ks are really built for adding new money into them for contributions. They're not as savvy and they're not as well built to think about distributions and think about how do I get income out of this. They tend to be rigid, have a lot of rules in place. Tax planning can also be a limitation. Keeping it in there certainly is an option for most plans. We recently had a family we started working with, and the employer said, you can't keep it in here. When you retire, you have to roll this out. You have to get it out of here. We don't see that very often, but that is possible. And as you start to think about the options that you have, you just need to make sure you're making that decision, considering everything about a part of your overall plan.
And another risk associated with keeping it is that it is subject to some of the company or carrier changes. Investment options can change, withdrawal limits could change, plan administration can change. There could be mergers, there can be bankruptcies, and there could be fee changes.
There could be a lot of things.
But let's make sure we also talk about the benefits of leaving it with your employer if you so choose.
Yeah, and one of the main benefits is that, especially if you're not 59 and a half, because the alternative is you roll the 401k plan to an individual retirement account or an IRA, but then you're required to wait until 59 and a half to take it out without the distribution penalty. The 401k plan doesn't work that way if you separate service from that employer at the age of 55 or beyond. So let's say you're 56 years old, you decide you want to retire or you get let go, you leave your money underneath the employer-sponsored plan, the 401k, then you can take distributions out without the 10% penalty. That's probably the biggest advantage. And so that is a planning idea that you want to keep in mind if you fall within that category, to make sure that you're just not saying, okay, I retired or I left my employer, I automatically need to move that over. That's not the case for everybody. As advantageous as the individual retirement account can be, there are some reasons you wouldn't want to do that.
We'll continue talking about what to do with your 401k when you retire next. Welcome back to Retiring Today. I am Molly Nelson here with Lauren Merkel and Clint Hunt-Rods. We're talking about what to do with your 401k when you retire. First segment, we talked about leaving it in the employer-sponsored plan. Now we're going to talk about rolling it into an IRA. Let's talk about the basics of what that is.
Yeah, so this is an individualized retirement account, and that's something that you would open up with a custodian like Schwab or Fidelity, and then you can roll the balance that you have in your 401k into that IRA. Then it's under your control, it's in your name, and at that point you can get a little more strategic with some of those investment decisions.
And you can not only do that when you retire. With a lot of plans, you could do that prior to retirement. A lot of times it is age 59 and a half.
A lot of 401k plans now do offer, once you obtain the age of 59 and a half, to do what they call is an in-service withdrawal or in-service rollover, which means even though you're still working with that employer, you're even still contributing to that retirement account, the 401k account. You can take the balance and move it to your IRA, not have to pay taxes on it if you do it the right way, and then it's underneath your name, your control, underneath the IRA.
Okay, so let's talk about, let's say you are retiring, you've got this 401k, you want to turn it into your retirement plan. So you talk with a trusted professional about rolling it, but there are a lot of rules that you want to make sure, whether you're doing it yourself or working with someone, they know these rules.
Yeah, and one of the biggest rules you do want to pay attention to is once that money is underneath the IRA, you cannot take a distribution from that IRA in most cases. There's a couple exceptions, but in most cases until you obtain the age 59 and a half. So in the last segment, we talked about the exception underneath the 401k plan, where you can, once you're above age 55, move it out before 59 and a half. That does not exist with the IRA. So you do want to be cognizant of that rule, because if you need access to that money prior to the age 59 and a half, the IRA may not be the best place for that money.
And it's important for people to know about the difference between direct and indirect rollovers too?
Yeah, there's two different ways that you can move money from a 401k plan to an IRA. One is a direct rollover, which is the most preferred way, because based on federal law, you can do as many direct rollovers as you want to at any point in time. Now, some 401k plans do restrict you, but federal law, you can do as many as you want. There's no taxes when you do that. There's no tax withholding, and it's just the most flexible way to do it. An indirect rollover, which is where you receive the money first, and then within the next 60 days, you have to move it to the IRA. There's tax withholding, mandatory at 20%. So to get the entire balance into the IRA, you actually have to pay out of your pocket to make that up. And the IRS says, the federal law says that you can only do one of those, an indirect rollover, every 12 months. And this is where many people do fall into that trap, because it's hard to distinguish between the two types. You do one indirect rollover, and then 6 months later you do another one, and it can cost you in penalties by doing that. So the direct rollover is the preferred method in most cases.
And I'm sure some of the viewers at home are like, I don't want penalties, I don't want to do this wrong, I don't want to mess this up. Well, the good news is if you're working with someone, this is the kind of stuff, Clint, that you and the retirement planners take care of on the behalf of the individuals and families we serve.
Yeah, and our team is great at helping families, even if they've got not just their most recent 401k. It's not uncommon that individuals have changed where they work. They've got an old 401k from here, an old 401k for there. One recent in the last 6 months, we worked with a family, and a particular individual, she had 9 different 401ks.
Wow.
And each one of them was relatively small over about a 20-year stretch, and our team helped track all of those down and get those all pulled together into one IRA, and that really brought them a lot of comfort. Now they can feel like, hey, this is a lot more simple, concise, easy to understand, rather than, hey, I know I've got all these different accounts all over the place. I don't know how I could ever make sure that they're all working together to help me achieve my retirement goals.
Yeah, what a difference receiving 9 different account statements versus 1. And then also at RMD age, so for most people that's age 73 or 75, you're mandated with the 401k account to take a required distribution from each one of those. So if she would have left it, she would have had 9 different required distributions as opposed to the IRA. Now she just has one. So simplicity is a really big benefit with this consolidation effort as well.
Okay, so whether you decide to roll it over at 59 and a half or roll it over when you get ready to retire 63, 64, 65, let's just say you've got it into the IRA and you're feeling good about that. What are the advantages of having it there versus being in the employer plan?
One of the biggest advantages is just more investment options. So once it's in that IRA, you have the entire array of the market to choose from for investment options, rather than just those limited options in your 401k. You might have 15 to 20 different mutual funds. Now we can get more efficient and more strategic with how much risk we're taking across your different, your 401k, your IRA at this point.
And Lauren, I heard you say RMDs. Of course, that's something you could talk about for a very long time, but those are those forced distributions. When you're in the IRA versus the 401k, do you have some more control over, I'm thinking RMDs or even taxes in retirement?
You have a little bit more control over when you pay the tax from the IRA, because from the 401k plan, the employer-sponsored plan, there is a mandatory 20% federal tax withholding, and if you're in a state that requires tax, a mandatory state tax withholding as well. So that doesn't determine what your tax bill is, it just determines you have to at least pay that right up front. With the IRA, you can choose to withhold 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%. You can choose to withhold whatever you want to, including zero. So it gives you more flexibility and control on your tax plan from the IRA as well. So a lot of these planning, the theme with a lot of these planning elements is you have control, you have more flexibility, and it all works really well in building out your retirement plan, because ultimately this is your retirement, it's your retirement resources. You want as much control and as much flexibility as you can get.
And we've talked about some different ages and some different numbers today, but we know that everyone watching has a different story. They have a different retirement date and they have a different amount in their 401k. And a great time to talk about your specific situation, Clint, is one of our Retire Ready calls.
Yeah, with those Retire Ready calls, we love to do them. It's just a chance to get to know families a little bit more, see where they're at, what specific things they're going through, and answer any questions that they have. It is not uncommon that families have something really specific that they just don't understand and they haven't been able to get a good answer on. And we can just explore that a little bit further, talk more about how we can potentially help them and just kind of what this transition as they're nearing retirement is going to look like and the things to be aware of, like some of the rules that we've talked about, and just making sure that they're going to be set up for success and have confidence in their Retire Secure roadmap.
You can set up a Retire Ready call right now by going to retirereadycall.com. But don't worry, we've got more to cover when we talk about what to do with your 401k when you retire next. Welcome back. I'm Molly Nelson here with Lauren Merkel and Clint Huntrods, and we're talking about what to do with your 401k when you retire. We talked about rolling the balance into an IRA, more flexibility, more options, and guys, I might also argue more hands-on control of what you're doing, especially if you're working with a retirement planner who you're seeing on a regular basis.
Yeah, and that's often where we start a relationship with families. They have the ability to roll out their 401k balance, and then we can help them in making decisions as they're getting closer and closer to retirement. And that looks very different than any advising they would likely get on their 401k, where it's really just investments. I'll help you pick this option or that option. If you can track down the plan administrator or advisor on your plan, where we're able to sit down and have a more in-depth conversation and then just really start to think through those 6 pillars that we build all of our plans on. And some of those decisions start to come together, and then we can realize how do we help you achieve your goals in retirement.
One of the ways I think about it is the IRA is a much more comprehensive type of advising relationship, where not only you're looking at the IRA, you're looking at the tax strategies, you're looking at the estate, the legacy planning type strategies, you're looking at all of that together, where the 401k type money often is that forgotten money, because most 401k plans do have a plan advisor, but a lot of participants that have never talked or met their plan advisor, and even if they do, that conversation with the plan advisor is very limited to the scope of that 401k plan. So that plan advisor is not talking to you about your Social Security options or your Medicare options or what other money you have outside of your 401k plan. And at this stage of your life, when you are a few years away from retiring, you want to make sure whenever you're having any investment conversation, all of those other conversations should be happening with that. And that's probably one of the biggest tragedies of the investment conversation. 401k versus IRA. IRA more comprehensive, 401k conversations much more limited in scope usually.
And when your 401k starts to build up, you need to be making decisions that are going to help you achieve your retirement goals. And we've seen countless examples of families just not realize, what they're actually invested in their 401k. They just kind of set it and forgot about it. And maybe when they started their plan, it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Life has changed. And as they're on the doorstep to retirement, life is going to continue to change. It's important that you have that plan guiding you, and that will help you through what those investment decisions you need to be making are, where we can take strategic risks, but also make sure that we've got a portion of your portfolio that as you turn off that paycheck, we can count on for dependable income. And that's a really big shift from during your working years, adding into that 401k, to thinking about a shift to, hey, I might need to take a distribution out as I enter retirement. How do I do that most effectively?
And I'm really glad you said as your 401k starts to build up, because I wrote down age. What age do you want to start thinking about your 401k? It's not probably ideal to start thinking about your 401k a year before you retire or 6 months before you retire. Really, even before 59 and a half is when you should start really thinking about transitioning your 401k or what you're going to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, you always want to be thinking about the 401k because it does build, it will build, and it is a big part of a lot of people's plan. When you really start to integrate that, I guess is probably the best way to think about it. Integrate it into all of your other financial decisions like the Social Security and the Medicare and the legacy, all that kind of stuff, is within about 5 years from retiring. And if you can do it prior to that, 10 years, that's really challenging for a lot of people, but ideal. But 5 to 10 years prior to retiring, a full integrated, comprehensive plan, including 401k and outside assets and all the other planning elements, is a really good time to do it.
Okay,
yeah, the individual I mentioned earlier, who's largely small cap in his 401k, we were able to help in building out that comprehensive plan, delivered it to him just actually this last week. And in that, we're managing some old 401ks that we've rolled out into IRAs, a brokerage account for this family. His 401k is still going to be with his employer for the next 4 or so years, but we were able to give him guidance and advice and recommendations to get away from that small cap model and get a little bit more large cap and just a more diversified approach. And he's fortunate in his 401k, he could choose from any options in the market. Every plan's different, but we can guide you through that and help you there as well. And he doesn't want to wait until 62 to have that conversation, or even 59 and a half. He's at 55 saying, hey, I've got a large balance here. I need to make sure I'm making all the right decisions.
Yeah, thinking ahead is a big piece of retirement planning. One more IRA conversation, just real briefly. A lot of times you're looking at those IRAs, you're dissecting them and how to use them, and a Roth conversion is part of the conversation you're having with people.
One of the best tax planning strategies for many people is, in fact, the Roth conversion. With the IRA, you have your money underneath the IRA. You know you can do a Roth conversion. So the only question then is, should you do a Roth conversion? And if you should, how much should you convert this year, next year? Create that Roth conversion plan. Underneath the 401k plan, not all 401k plans offer a Roth side of the 401k, let alone a Roth conversion. And even if your 401k plan offers the Roth 401k, it doesn't mean it offers the Roth conversion. So at this stage, not all 401k plans is it available to you to do the conversion. If that's a part of your tax strategy, all IRAs will offer you that ability.
And this is the kind of stuff that you're bringing up with people. Again, most likely if it's in the money or the employer-sponsored plan and there's an advisor on that, most likely they're not going to bring that up. But you can really help people work with their specific situation to make sure it's right for them.
Yeah, and a lot of families don't know, should I be contributing pre-tax? It seems like the Roth 401k is getting a lot of attention. Does that make sense for me? And it's hard to know. And your CPA might not always give you the best advice. They're looking at a specific year. They're not thinking about the next 10, 20 years of your life and what potential tax brackets you're likely to be in. That starts to get in. What's your lifestyle look like? What are your expenses? It's a much more comprehensive conversation that's needed to be able to give you guidance on, should I contribute Roth? Should I contribute pre-tax? Should I fill it up? Should I be doing something else? All those questions start to come up as families are nearing retirement, and they just want to make sure they're doing everything right.
A lot of questions are probably swirling around in your head. So how do you get answers? A Retire Ready call is a great way to start. You can schedule a Retire Ready call right now by going to retirereadycall.com. You'll see a calendar there. You can choose at a time and then a date that works for you. You can ask questions to a retirement planner about your 401k or really learn about anything that's on your mind in retirement.
One of the things I really like about the Retire Ready call, and we've received this feedback, is it is just a very comfortable, casual conversation. What is on your mind? What keeps you up at night? What questions do you have about your retirement plan? And then also through that conversation, through that dialogue with the retirement planner, there's going to be other questions that come to mind that you can address. And one of the hardest parts about retirement planning, not only is what is it, what should go into your retirement plan, but how do you get started? So the Retire Ready call also can be a great way to get started with your retirement plan. You don't have to work with us. We would love to work with you if that works out, but at least it gets you started thinking about retirement planning and maybe finding a retirement planner to help you construct your retirement plan so you can have the retirement that you want.
This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.